I was butt-ass naked as I was being asked for my ID and to sign this non-disclosure agreement. There wasn't a lot of time to look through and feel comfortable.
I don't recall what was in that. It was taken away from me immediately after signing it. I didn't really have much time to really even read it. When I started to read it, it was, you don't really need to read this, do you? I remember there being something along the lines of financial repercussions. I feel like they were trying to scare us with some sort of BS legal document. That's what it felt like. It felt like intimidation.
How easy could it have been to have just left?
I really don't know. I've questioned many times how difficult or what I could have done if I could have left. There was four older, larger security guys, physically fit guys that kind of exhibited themselves to be professional security people.
The impact of there being chaperones in that room felt like there was even more pressure to perform, to go make sure they had a good time.
Yasharahla, I'm gonna make a lesson about this whole lawsuit that Abercrombie and Fitch got accused of, because it seems as though the lawsuit claimed that they were involved in a sex trafficking operation, taking advantage of male models that they have in the industry, and it seems as though they were sexually abusing them, underground. Because of course things like this won't get really released to the public, even though you do kind of see like there's a lot of advertisements and even like pictures showing the ads, and it look really sus, seeing that you got men that are half naked or in their underwears and they look like they're in some wrestling positions, or they posing around each other, you know what I mean? So that right there is just kind of sus. And this is from the BBC.com. And out of all names for a news outlet, I'm not sure why they chose a name like that. Kind of sounds sus itself. But anywho, so it says lawsuit accuses Abercrombie and Fitch of funding sex trafficking operation. This was about a day ago, so very recent. It says a U.S. lawsuit accuses former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, Mike Jeffries, of rape. And if you see this man's photo, Mike Jeffrey, he looked like a damn fucking sodomite himself. I wouldn't even want to work a minimum wage job for this motherfucker. Like, something about his look already told me that he done got it up the ass, or he done put it up other men's asses. I wouldn't be surprised if it's both. Shit. And it says this is by Rihanna Croxford and Ruth Evans. Seems like two women wrote the article. So it says a lawsuit against fashion brand Abercrombie and Fitch, accusing the firm of funding a sex trafficking operation, has been filed in New York. The company allowed a ex-CEO, Mike Jeffries, in quote, unfettered access to resources to support his criminal enterprise, documents allege. The lawsuit follows a BBC investigation into allegations Mr. Jeffries exploited men at events he hosted while CEO. A brand spokesperson said the company would not be commenting on the case. A lawyer for Mr. Jeffries said he would also not be commenting. And quote, the courtroom is where we will deal with this matter, Brian H. Bieber said in a statement. The lawsuit also accused Mr. Jeffries and his British partner Matthew Smith of sex trafficking, sexual misconduct, and rape. Mr. Smith has also been contacted for a comment. The case has been brought under the New York Adult Survivors Act, which allows people to file civil sexual abuse claims that would have otherwise exceeded the statute of limitations. It is seeking class action status where one or several people sue on behalf of a much larger group. End quote. Because of this lawsuit and the brave men that have come forward, Abercrombie will have to answer for its many unacceptable actions and inactions that have destroyed the lives of dozens of young men, said Brad Edwards, a civil lawyer who is now representing some of the alleged victims. Events were held at Mr. Jeffries' Hamptons, LA, Mamounia in Morocco, Claridge in London, and the hotel in Ducat, Eden Rock in the south of France. Earlier this month, the BBC published the findings of an investigation into a highly organized network that used a middleman to recruit young adult men for events with Mr. Jeffries and Mr. Smith. In response, Abercrombie and Fitch, which also owns the Hollister brand, previously told the BBC it was, and quote, appalled and disgusted by Mr. Jeffries' alleged behavior. Through his lawyer, Mr. Jeffries declined to comment. Financial lifeblood for sex trafficking. The lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York claims that A&F knew or should have known it was providing the, end quote, financial lifeblood for a sex trafficking organization led by Mike Jeffries between at least 1992 and 2014, while he was the CEO of the company. It alleges he used A&F's corporate resources, including a jet, transportation, and unlimited amounts of cash to facilitate a sex trafficking venture, which enabled him to accumulate, end quote, new victims at an alarming rate, and he also had access to aspiring models. End quote, Abercrombie cared about profiting and showed absolute loyalty to Jeffries, including a willingness to spend copious amounts of money on extravagant drug and sex parties, ignoring multiple red flags of criminality in Jeffries' corporate account activity, the legal document claims. Company employees were aware of Mr. Jeffries' sexually exploitative and his abusive behavior, and a video that circulated within the corporate office showed him sniffing what was believed to be cocaine off of a man's penis, according to the lawsuit. While Abercrombie tried to prevent the video from being more widely disseminated, the company did nothing to discourage the behavior captured in the video, and in fact continued to financially reward Jeffries, it says. Let's see. Let's skip to ensnare the young male victims. The legal complaint is made by David Bradbury, now 37, a former model and actor who was interviewed as a part of the BBC investigation on behalf of himself and other. Mr. Barry makes allegations based on his information and belief that Mike Jeffries held castings at his homes and abroad, providing prospective brand models with A&F gift cards and clothing. He alleges they were forced to take drugs and participate in sex acts with Mr. Jeffries and his partner at Mr. Jeffries' direction. Mr. Jeffries was using the Abercrombie name, his power within the company, his clothing, his photographers, and his marketing materials in order to ensnare the young male victims into sex trafficking venture, the lawsuit claims. It also accuses Mr. Jeffries and his British partner, Mr. Smith, of sexual misconduct, forcible touching, and rape, which resulted in physical and psychological injury and trauma to Mr. Bradbury and others. Sexual exploitation does not discriminate based on gender. Men have been exploited in the modeling and fashion industries for decades, said Brittany Henderson, a civil lawyer also representing some of the alleged victims. She added, and quote, "This case is paramount to expanding the #MeToo movement across genders, eradicating sexual exploitation in the entire industry, starting with Abercrombie and Fitch." So yeah, that pretty much concludes that article, and with that, I'll bring out some scriptures, and Lord willing, make this lesson edifying, so hopeful. So Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7 says, "Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart." So yeah, that's pretty much the oppression that we gotta deal with. These sodomites that run all these goddamn industries, you know, that is running mainly Hollywood, and they're just pretty much in the works of also a lot of these famous clothing lines. And when you really look like at the underground activities of these famous industries, like these famous fashion design, you know, clothing brands, and these famous TV channels that also go as far as pushing a lot of, you know, sitcoms and cartoons, things of that nature. They also have a lot of, you know, skeletons in their closet, and you have a lot of whistleblowers amongst Esau, his own people, that are starting to go as far as exposing this devil for all the shit that he's done, in the industry. And then you even have some jakes that haven't woken up to this truth that are also exposing, the Hollywood industry and exposing all these other industries that deal with selling famous clothing brands. So yeah, man, and that's pretty much, the oppression that we gotta just deal with. The fact that these elites and these other low-level luminaries that Esau has set up too, that run these companies, they're starting to get exposed a little bit more about the shit that they're doing. Because you can't really hide and call people conspiracy theorists for, exposing the light now and starting to get on these famous people for having their companies doing things like this. And then it's like they want to try to say, oh, you're conspiracy theorists because now you got a lot of people that's sharing the information on TikTok and other social media platforms like Facebook and YouTube. And it's like, at this point, you can't really tackle the truth. The only way you could go about trying to fight against the truth is actually by just shutting the whole internet down, because a lot of people are just awoken to the fact that we live in a world that's ran by Satan, and the elites, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, they're the ones that's doing these things on a higher level. So what these rich ass multi-millionaires, what they're doing, basically, this is a very small thing compared to what these elites are doing. And all the evidence that's being on the internet, like these other news platforms, are starting to expose and shed some light. Mind you, that's just a very small candle what they're shedding. That's like they're just revealing the tip of the iceberg and just only scratching a nail on the surface, compared to what there's a lot of information out there that's pretty much being hidden from the masses. And the other part of the scripture in verse 7 where it says, and a gift destroyeth the heart. Yeah, that's one of the gifts that was mentioned in the article, talking about these male models receiving some sort of incentives or compensation, such as like a A&F gift card, and they get paid a certain amount too, and they get to go to these events and things of that nature, go to these rich mansions. It seems a little good and rewarding, but it's like, look at all the humiliation that you have to go through on the left hand side. You got to lose your dignity. You have to pretty much be raped and sodomized by men. All that shit destroys you as a man. And there's even a lot of celebrities that are in the music industry that do the same shit as well. They look like hardcore gangsters. They look like tough thugs, but deep down inside, they're a bitch to the so-called white man. And if they want to continue to get their riches, they have to continue to do these rituals, like wearing the dress, having their children being sodomites. And they have to get their back blown out or blow another man's back out. And this information that was already revealed, these are just models. So models are like lower level workers in the entertainment industry, which, don't get me wrong, being a model is kind of sometimes the next step to basically having references in order to get into being in the entertainment industry, such as acting, because you could just build your network from doing that alone, being in the model industry, and then getting to know other entertainers and things of that nature that also have connections with the manager of that model industry and things of that nature. But overall, that whole shit is just worldly, and and if you want to be famous, or even if you just want to basically remain on a low level, of working in that type of field, you're still gonna have to see certain things and witness some BS. See, if you're trying to make it in this man's world, man, in this devil Esau world, if you're trying to make it, there's no gray areas, man. You gotta be a full mo. You gotta really sell your ass out. And I remember one part of the article mentioned about how those victims were paid in hush money and, given certain incentives to just kind of keep it on the low. But hey, man, there's a scripture for that. That's exactly that the devil tries to do, just to kind of keep, continuing his wickedness, so that he won't get searched out. But it says in Proverbs chapter 28, verse 11, the rich man is wise in his own conceit, but the poor that have understanding searcheth him out. Exactly. And the way we search him out is pretty much through the understanding of the scriptures, seeing news articles and whistleblowers that's in the world. And mostly the true whistleblowers are the ones in the truth, because brothers through the spirit, we show other whistleblowers as well, like people that make articles about this, even news outlets exposing this information, which news articles will really try to hide this as much as possible. But of course they're gonna have to eventually speak on it if they see a mass amount of people waking up to the fact that majority of model companies within the modeling industry, and the same thing with Hollywood as well, seeing a lot of these companies that have their top men and their managers amongst them that go as far as having sex scandals, and they cause many of their employees that just started working for them or that have been working for them for a while to be pretty much scarred for life. And the gifts that destroy their heart is basically the fame and the clout that they get, the fact that they get to have certain incentives. Basically they just are like lap dogs, privileged slaves, for lack of better words, and and this is the same reason why, like, Esau, you cannot buy the elect, like I said in one of the previous videos that I made about the actor strike. You cannot buy the elect, man. Like, there's no way you're gonna get the elect to sell out, because Lord willing, if I'm part of that number, like, we already know your characteristics and your spirit. All these other false Israelite camps that sold out, it was destined for them to sell out any damn way. But we know you're trying to do everything you possibly can to prolong your kingdom, but whatever you devils do is not gonna work. Your downfall is still inevitable anyway. So let me bring out Proverbs chapter 23 verse 3. It says, be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. Labor not to be rich, seize from thine own wisdom. And I'm not gonna lie, trying to make it as a celebrity is like one of the worst possible ways of trying to be successful in this life, because it's like you have to be so humiliated by these people, and they keep it as a secret as long as you don't expose them. And at the same time, they're gonna be monitoring your life, like have their eyes on you on your social media like a hawk. So anyhow, like, you blow the whistle on them and you expose them, they're gonna go as far as trying to expose the shit that you did. And at the same time, while they're defaming you, they will pretty much have you humiliated with all the previous tapes and footages that they have of the heinous acts that you've done. And another thing too about a lot of these celebrities that get the fame, that's probably another reason why they get caught up by the law, and they eventually get arrested for hidden evidence that they've done a particular crime. But sometimes it could be possible that part of the sellout ritual was that they had to commit a certain crime and have it like videotaped as evidence to those managers that they're working for, so that they have something over them. And sometimes they could also pay people to lie and say that you did some shit without the actual evidence. So either way, once you sell out to them and then eventually you want to basically stop doing what they request and you want to expose them now, they still like have a way to defame you and just pretty much ruin your life. So it's like a lose-lose situation once you fall into the snares of the devil. And it says in verse 5, will thou set thine eyes upon that which is not, Exactly, because it's not really yours. These riches belong to Esau, and it's moth-eaten riches. I believe in the book of First John, I mentioned something about how the riches are cankered, you know, and it's talking about like the rich man. Now it applies to any rich man on this side, but mainly Esau, because this is his kingdom, this is his rulership. You know, you got money being inflated, and at the same time, it's like we don't have real money in gold and silver. So it says, let me continue verse 5. It says, for riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. And this is Solomon saying this, like the richest king of all time. That's why he didn't really enjoy too much of his kingdom, because he knew it was just like temporary. It was just only 40 years of just reigning. He knew his riches was going to be passed on to someone else eventually. And it says in verse 6, eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. And in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9, it says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare. Exactly, signing that document. And like the guy said in the video, he literally said that you really want to like read this whole document? You don't got to read it, you know, just sign it. Yeah, of course they're going to try to tell you to sign it and not try to have to read all the information, because they don't want you to go through the whole process of reading it. They just want you to sign it quickly. And a lot of people, they just get caught up with the fact that, oh, it's a lot of benefits, you know, it seems good. And, you know, because I see on the advertisements, there's a lot of people that's, you know, new faces in the company. And then when you realize that, oh, there's a very few famous people that make it all the way through, and a lot of people just come and go, don't that click in your head? It's not really the hard work that they've been put through. It's the humiliation that they were able to endure, which was humiliation that included them being violated sexually and just other type of heinous acts that they had to commit to just, you know, get that vainglory and honor on the left hand side. And they got to continue doing those things if they want to, you know, remain, you know, famous, or if they want to exalt their fame to the higher level. And it says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts. Because it hurts, you know, and it's foolish, because at the end of the day, it's like they could still defame you. They could still say that we have a right to freeze and hold your financial assets, or freeze your account, you know, that you don't have a right to do this endorsement. You know, they still want to like pick and choose the type of investment decisions that, you know, you make in their industry. They want to be able to basically control those decisions. Just like how when Bill Cosby wanted to buy CNN and he wasn't able to. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Michael Jackson also wanted to buy another major company within the industry, and he wasn't allowed to do it either, even though he had the money for it. So that shows you right there that they still want to have something over you. They still want to be your head no matter what. And it says in verse 10, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some covet after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. And the only ones who could have faith in this truth is mainly you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, which are the actual biblical Israelites. So this doesn't really apply to you Edomites or you damn heathens any damn way. So I'll say, like, for you heathens, like, you know, if you want to be famous, you want to be a celebrity, by all means, this is your goddamn kingdom. Do what the fuck you please. But when it's coming to the nation of our people, you shouldn't be getting involved with this devil's riches, you know, because at the end of the day, what the Most High finna give you on the next side is going to be way beyond the Rothschilds, Rockefellers have ever owned in their lifetimes, and even in their past lives, you know. Because at the end of the day, all the shit that these Rothschilds own is just sparks compared to what the kingdom of heaven is going to be like for just even an average Israelite, you know. Rothschild has never owned a planet before in his life. So, and those planets that they be looking at in the in NASA, you know, those planets that they be discovering, those planets are meant for the Israelites to discover and to live on and to own. So everything that these Edomites have on this side is nothing. So just like going as far as trying to desire the shit that they have, trying to desire their lifestyle, like, it's pointless at this point, especially with the truth being out. And you're already starting to see a lot of these Edomites are, you know, exposing the Hollywood industry that they've been in. They're realizing that it wasn't worth their dignity being lost, the humiliation that they went through. You got that girl from iCarly named Jeanette McCurdy that started, you know, blowing the whistle against Nickelodeon and their corrupt directors and producers and screenwriters. And another thing she also mentioned was that she was paid in hush money of $300,000 just to, you know, keep silence about what she experienced in the industry as a child actor. And all your life you grew up to think that things were sweet and dandy in their life until, you know, you start seeing some people actually starting to come out now. And there's even a lot more people than ever that's starting to come out about the whole Hollywood shit. But yeah, that's pretty much it on that. Hold me, let's say fine, let's give all glory, praise, honor to Adonai, Yahweh, Bashem, Shem, Lake, Hoshab, Bashem, Lake, Kadash, the bonus apostle of the love, some peace, citation, hope, relax, shalom.